Hello, a very good morning to all the students. I hope you all are safe and healthy at your home. In the last chapter, that is the overview of industrial sector, we have just left with the one topic, that is the difference between the MRTP Act 1969 and the Competition Act 2002. So we are just left with this content. So first we are going to complete this content. Then we will moving ahead with the next topic, next chapter. So the content which is left is the difference between MRTP Act 1969 and the Competition Act 2002. So on the left side, I have taken MRTP Act 1969 and on the right side, Competition Act 2002. So the first difference is this MRTP Act is based on the pre-reform environment. This was formed when there is a pre-reform, and whereas the Competition Act was based on the post-reform environment. It's the first difference between. Second one is it is based on the firm size as a factor. What is the size of the firm? Large, medium, small. So the MRP Act, it is based on the what is the size of the firm, whereas the Competition Act is based on the firm structure as a factor. What is the structure? How this firm is going to function? What is the management in this? So we are going to look as a structure wise in the Competition Act 2002. Next one is the competition offense, implicit and not defined. Here the MRP Act is the implicit. It is oftenly implicit in the competition where it has not defined. Whereas in the Competition Act 2002, the competition is offense explicit and it is defined. In this Competition Act, we are going to face the challenges in the competition in at the national level, international level, and at the global level. So here it is been defined, the competition is been defined in the Competition Act, where MRTP Act is not defined and it is not up to that level. We won't be able to face the competition in that. Clear? So the next point over here is it is based on the market dominance is objected to. Dominance refers to a position where they are going to be dominant, they are going to be rule over the market, right? So in this MRTP was the market dominant is objected to, whereas in the Competition Act 2002, market dominance is not object to, but abuse will be acted upon. Here there is no market dominance, वहां पे कोई किसी को डोमिनेट नहीं करेगा इन दिस कंपटीशन मार्केट, राइट? नो वन इज गोइंग टू डोमिनेट ऑन ईच अदर firm industries, right? But abuse will be acted upon it. So the next difference is MRTP, and in the right side there is a Competition Act 2002. Now the next point is registration of business agreement is mandatory. In the MRTP Act 1969, they have one of the important we can say point in the policy in the act, that is the registration is mandatory, it is compulsory. They have to register their business agreement in this act, right? So we are going to here the registration is compulsory in the MRTP Act, whereas in the Competition Act 2002, Registration of business agreement is voluntary. Voluntary means if you want to do it, you can do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But if in the Competition Act, if certain industries has been listed for the registration part, so they have to do it. Rest they depend upon whether they want to do it or not. The registration part of the business agreement. Okay, the next one is there is no combination rule in the MRTP Act 1969, whereas in the Competition Act, combination regulation beyond a three set limit provided. Now, there are certain rules in the Competition Act. There is a combination of rules. There is a combination of regulation which is beyond a uh, three set limit which is provided to them. And the last one is the no competition advocacy role of MRTP Commission. There is no advocacy role of MRTP Commission, whereas there is a role of CCI, right? There is a role of CCI in the Competition Act 2002. The CCI is nothing but the Competition Commission of India, which is established to eliminate the practices, to eliminate the malpractices, to eliminate the illegal trading, to protect the consumer interest, to protect the market from the unwanted rules and regulations. So this is so here the competition advocacy rule by the CCI, where again they are going to see the what is the proper functioning of the Competition Act, whether there is they are going in the right direction. That all they are going to see. But here there is no nothing in the MRTP Commission. So this was the last content of your overview of industrial sector. Clear with this? If you have any doubt, let me know. So now I am moving ahead with the next chapter. The chapter number is 10, that is disinvestment policy. So this if I want to understand what exactly the disinvestment is, for that first of all I have to understand how this public sector and private sector has been functioning, and what is the difference between in both the way of functioning. दोनों में क्या डिफरेंस है, पब्लिक सेक्टर क्या होता है, प्राइवेट सेक्टर क्या होता है, राइट? एज पर आर बेसिक नॉलेज पब्लिक सेक्टर वो होते हैं जो गवर्नमेंट के होते हैं, प्राइवेट सेक्टर वो होते हैं जो प्राइवेटली ओन किए जाते हैं. बट व्हेन वी कम टू द प्रॉफिट मैक्सिमाइजेशन, प्राइवेट सेक्टर अर्न मैक्सिमम प्रॉफिट इन इट, right? Whereas in the public sector was more focused on the customer satisfaction. जो आपका पब्लिक सेक्टर है वो ज्यादा फोकस करता है कस्टमर सेटिस्फैक्शन पे, rather than, right, rather than the profit making, because public government sector is totally focused on the interest of the consumer. They should not be face any kind of uh, loss, right? So if we are going to see the quality wise, customer wise, but still as we see compared to public and private sector are more focusing on the customer satisfaction. They are more focusing on the customer oriented goods and services that they are going to provide in the market, right? So before starting with the disinvestment policy, the introduction will be your what were the drawbacks of the public sector due to that uh, we have invented or generated the disinvestment policy in an economy, right? So we are going to start with the introduction. In the introduction, first we are going to deal with the what is public sector by India. Public sector refers to the government owned enterprises. It is been called as public sector undertaking or public sector enterprises, one and the same. Now, these public sector enterprises has been classified in two terms, right? Classified in the two terms, that is, first is the central public sector enterprises, that is CPSE. Now, in this enterprises, there is a direct hold. There is a direct hold of the central government or other CPSC, that is Central Public Sector Enterprises, is 51% or more. Here, they are going to hold the share of more than minimum 51 or more than 51% of share, so that this central government can rule on that enterprise, that is, it is a government oriented enterprises. Next one is the state level sector enterprises. So sorry, it's a little mistake over here. So sorry, I just went so sorry, it's a typing mistake. It's not public over here, it's a level. Yes. So in this second classification, this that is the state level sector enterprise, that is SLSC. In this, they are going to hold the whole share by the state government, right? Here, these enterprises have the state government as a majority shareholder. Majority means again the number of shares larger will be which belongs to or owned by the state government, and most of the investment in SL SLPE, that is state level public enterprises. So the main sector was power and the energy sector. So this is the two classification of public sectors. Next, as on 31st March 2017, there were 331 CPSC, that is Central Public Sector Enterprises, out of which 257 were in operation. It means that 331 में से सिर्फ 257 आपके जो सेंट्रल पब्लिक सेक्टर एंटरप्राइजेस है वो काम कर रहे हैं, एंड 74 were on the under construction. बाकी के जो 74 हैं वो अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन, मतलब स्टिल द there is no operation of 74 because still they are on the process of the construction. So when the process is going to be complete, they will be clear with that and they can start with the operation. The public sector has played a very important role in the Indian economic development. Why? Because this public sector is for the consumer interest. They are going to provide the good qualities of goods and services to the consumer at a very low interest rate, right? So this is very very important for the economy, for the Indian economy development. Now, they have provided a large and diversified industrial base, generated employment, developed indigenous technologies, earned foreign exchange through the export, right? Now, rather than using the import word, they are going to what? They are going to save the foreign exchange money, and rather than using import goods, we are going to use import substitute products which are available only in India. So now if there is more export, the country again going to earn a more and more profit and income from the foreign exchange, right? If we are going to do less import, अगर हम less import करेंगे तो ही, otherwise the foreign exchange profit will be reducing as per the time, because if there is more import, again we are going to uh, bear the loss in the foreign exchange market, right? Because here the export has been lesser as compared to the import. Next one over here is the public sector is not measured, right? The public sector is not measured on the basis of profit. Why we cannot measure on the basis of profit? Because the main objective of public sector is the social objective like your employment generation, prevention of private monopoly, consumer interest, right? So we have to make sure that दी सोशल ऑब्जेक्टिव्स, ये जो आपके एम्प्लॉयमेंट है, प्रिवेंशन ऑफ प्राइवेट मोनोपोली है, कंज्यूमर इंटरेस्ट है, सो वी हैव टू focus on this objective rather than on the profit is there but after the social objective, right? So we cannot measure the public sector on the basis of profit. So, in the recent past year, the performance of this sector is being carefully evaluated. कुछ सालों से हम लोग ने ये सेक्टर्स को बहुत ही केयरफुली वी हैव evaluated. The public enterprises have set up a huge investment in this sector. अभी पब्लिक सेक्टर में क्या सेटअप किया है? ह्यूज इन्वेस्टमेंट इन दिस सेक्टर सो दैट वी कैन earn maximum profit, right? With the social objective they can earn maximum profit, and as well as they are going to increase the rate of return on investment, right? And the return on capital employed, right? So we have to set up this due to this. Next point over here is public sectors. In this public sectors, few sectors are profit making, right? And few are not. So we have to focus on that public sector enterprises where that enterprise is somewhere or the other is not sufficient to make profit. वो कहीं ना कहीं प्रॉफिट नहीं बना पा रहे हैं, right? So this is your, so what we are going to do with that, the enterprises which are not going to make a profit, we are going to see in the next. Now this was the just the introduction of your public sector in India, that is the introduction of your disinvestment policy. Now, what are the problem faced by the public sector? The functioning of many public sector units has been categorized by low productivity. Main problem क्या है public sector का? They are facing a problem like low productivity, unsatisfied quality of goods and services, overstaffing, inadequate human resources, development, and low rate of return on capital. So these were the problem faced by the public sector. So we are going to again explain each and every one in the detail. First of all, mountaining loss. Huge investment was made in the public sector, but they are failed to generate the surplus from that huge investment. And again, rather than expanding the public sector, there is a contraction in the public sector. First of all, they are failed to generate the surplus. If there is a surplus, we can expand the public sector. But if there is no surplus, how we are going to expand the public sector? Now, according to the Public Sector Survey 2006, 17, The loss incurred by Air India, BSNL, and MTNL together or combined account of 55.66 percentage of total losses incurred by the top 10 losses making PSU. It means जितना भी total losses है, जो भी the companies which are incurring losses in the public sector, so from that total 55 point मतलब 50%, more than 50% losses is been done by Air India, BSNL and MTNL companies. Then the next point, it is added in this mountain losses. हाँ, mountain losses का explanation इसमें ही है, ये पूरा explanation the mountain losses explanation. Now we have seen the industries which are loss making. Now we are going to see the industries which are profit making in the public sector enterprises, that are Indian Oil, ONGC, Coal India, etc. are the profit making in the public sector enterprises. I hope you are clear with the first problem faced by the public sector, that is mounting losses. Next one, low profitability. Return on investment in the public sector continue to be low due to the huge investment base. There is a low rate on investment because what we have invested, the return were comparatively low. That is, something went wrong in the strategy or something went wrong in the project or not proper approximately forecasting. So something is there due to which there is a low return on investment. So when the return on unit per capital employed in this sector is much lesser than the private sector. Here, there is lower as compared to the private sector. The capital employed is much lesser than the private sector over here. Now, this is provided a burden on the government budget. Why? Because again, there is a loss and loss. As we are going to compare with the private sector increasing at a very faster rate, whereas the public sector is going to increase at a very lower rate. So that again, there is an again burden on the government expenditure, right? Then again, it going to raise the losses for the public enterprises because the rate of investment is low in the public enterprises. So again, the loss in the public enterprises which are to bear by the government as well as central government as well as the state government. Next one is the administrative problem faced by the public sector. Administrative problems in public enterprises have been caused due to the factors like lack of autonomy to individual units, political interference in determining the location, employment policies, lack of accountability, and defective decision making process. Now, why there is a problem in the administrative, right? Because due to the lots of interference of the political parties, whether in which location they have to produce or in which location they can set up their industries, right? There are the policies of the employment. Then there is a lack of accountability, and while taking decision making, again that decision making will again reflect in the negative manner. So these are the factors due to which there is a problem in the administrative work. Now, due to this factor, they are not able to properly function the administrative department, right? Next one, due to inefficient control over cost, quality, productivity in case of many public sectors. So, due to all these factors, we cannot control the cost. We cannot sometimes control the quality of the goods and services. We cannot control the productivity of the goods and services, due to which, due to the all factors I have explained you in the this point, right? Sorry. Due to this factors, again there is a decrease in the productivity, control, quality. Again there is a loss in the public sector enterprises. Next one is the problem related to manpower. Now, in public enterprises there is two main problem of manpower, that is either overstaffing or understaffing. या तो हद से ज्यादा एम्प्लॉयज है मेरे पास, मतलब अगर इफ आई वांट ओनली 15 एम्प्लॉयज और 50 एम्प्लॉयज, देयर आई हैव appointed 60 employees. It means there are 10 people, there are 10 manpower who are over. It means I'm going to give them a salary not on the free basis, but we don't need this that 10 people, right? So the one problem is the overstaff. So this overstaff is due to the employment generation objective. ठीक है, if we are going to give them employment, that is fine, but we have to make sure that they should not be overstaffing, because if there is a overstaffing in the economy, again they are going to create a loss for the public sector enterprises, right? So due to the employment generation objectives and suffer from the poor manpower planning. Now, ठीक है, for the generation employment generation objective they take it, but they have to make sure that how much manpower we need, how much number of employees we need in the organization. If we are going to take a proper planning for this, again there is a loss in the public sector enterprises due to not proper following the planning of the manpower, right? Next one, now the underemployed means here the people are lack lack of proper supervision, right? When there is a full potential are not utilized. Underemployment means we have the people, but still we are not properly utilizing the people's skills in the organization, right? So there is a lack of proper supervision to lead to the staff discipline. Other manpower related problems are delay in the appointment of staff, large scale corruption, nepotism, etc. are the problem related to the manpower in the public sector enterprises. So we are moving ahead with the next content, that is underutilization of capacity. Now, what is this underutilization of capacity? In 1991, 46% of the public enterprises operate with the capacity utilize of less than 75%. इसका मतलब क्या है? We are not using फुल कैपेसिटी, हम लोग ने कभी फुल रिसोर्सेस यूज किए ही नहीं है. So from this 75% of the capacity what we are using it, in that 75% only 46% are being used in the operation. इसका मतलब we are not using the full capacity, right? So if we are not going to use full capacity, of course there's a wastage of the public resources. So, as compared with the private sector, the capacity used by the public sector enterprises or undertaking is low. because of not using full capacity, full resources. So, due to this low capacity utilization, there is an increase in the cost of production that will decrease the profit, and again there is a wastage of public resources enterprises. Clear with this? So we are moving to the next point. Next point is the planning and project execution. Most public sector enterprises have been set up without the proper planning. It means we have not planned properly, but we have set up the public. So, without planning, if I'm going to set up a small thing, so I don't know what to do, when to do, how to do. If these questions are not clear, somewhere or the other, there is a failure from my side, because we have to plan. Because if we have planning, so we can know what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, what are the problems I'm going to face during that project, or what can be the things I have to do, how much resources I need, how much capital I need, how many number of employees I need. So if I am not using a proper planning technique without setting up any public sector enterprises, it will definitely be a loss or the burden for the government, right? Therefore, yes, sorry, set up without proper planning, proper appraisal, cost estimation, right? So we have to see all this, not about the proper planning for the proper appraisal. When we are going to do appraisal, when the people are going to work with the very, so we have to make sure that on what basis we are going to do the appraisal, project appraisal. We have to estimate the cost. The cost should be minimum so that we can earn maximum profit, right? As well as we have to satisfy the customer. Clear with this? Now, therefore, the location of many such enterprises is not economically feasible. Now, the location of this is not feasible, not economically, right? Then, due to the improper cost estimation, the actual cost of project far exceed the original estimation. जब हमने proper से estimation नहीं किया, then the actual cost of the project is much higher than what we have estimated the cost during the planning stage. Besides this, if we are going to use an inappropriate technology, right, and a faculty project execution, there will be a huge waste of resources. अगर हमने प्रॉपर टेक्नोलॉजी यूज किया ही नहीं है, if we are not taking a proper technology, then the total during that period for the 1 month, 2 month, or the 1 year, there's a total wastage of resources because we have not used the resources appropriately. Either the technology form, in the project faculty execution, whatever may be the stuff, right? So this is one of the problem where without a proper planning, without proper resources, if we are going to just set up the public sector enterprises, that enterprises will again reflect in the losses, again the burden to the government. And the last point over here is the pricing policy. What is this pricing policy? Generally, the public sector enterprises are administered prices decided. The prices has been decided under the control and the regulation of the government. We cannot solely decide the price of the commodities in the public sector for the profit making, right? So here the government is going to decide what is the price, what is the price of the different commodities, right? Not in terms of profit making, in terms of consumers need. Now price is based on the departmental decision, In many cases, price has been fixed below the cost price. If we are going to fix the price below the cost price, it means again a loss. They are not getting that much income so that they can cover the cost. अगर ऐसा ही चलने लगेगा, so the this public sector enterprises has to be bear with the lots of huge losses in the future period. Clear? Next, the price structure of many public enterprises is not rational, right? Here, the price sector is not rational and having a responsible for the losses. Rational means what? We have to make sure that the price should be suitable. The price should be accepted by all the customers. So we have to think rationally when we are going to fix the price in the public sector enterprises. I hope you are clear with this. So this was the last problems faced by the public sector enterprises. So these are the problems, these are the, what I can say, drawbacks of the public sector enterprises. Clear with this? So we have seen what is public sector enterprises. We have seen what are the problem faced by the public enterprises. So we are next moving ahead with the our main content. What we are going to study in this chapter is the disinvestment, right? So in this disinvestment, I'm going to start with the privatization. What do you mean by privatization, students? You have learned in the 11th standard in the economic policy 1991, that is privatization, liberalization, and globalization. The privatization was a part of that, where it refers to any process that reduce the involvement or the role of government in the economic activities. Here we have to reduce the role of government for the proper functioning of the enterprises, for more profit making in the enterprises, right? So this is one of the main advantages, or this is one of the main important concept in the economic policy 1991. Due to this, there is an increase in the public sector enterprises. The problems or what are the drawbacks we can overcome with this privatization. In 1919, privatization as measured to curb the problem of the public sector. Sorry, this is a spelling mistake over here. It should I come. So sorry for this typing mistake. In 1980s, the privatization as measures to the core problem of the public sector. इसको solution माना गया था for the problem of the public sectors. It has been raising interest in the privatization in many developed countries, right? And it was first introduced by the United Kingdom. Which one? Privatization was first introduced by the United Kingdom in the 1980s earlier. Like other country, India too have adopted this privatization policy, right? उन लोगों ने क्या किया था? उन लोगों ने अडॉप्ट किया था. And after adopting this, it felt that privatization is the answer of the problem of public sector. A part of ongoing privatization, public sector enterprises equity is being overrode in the market, which is being sold to the people. Now, here, disinvestment involves the sale of equity. Right here, the disinvestment involves the sale of equity, bonds capital invested by the government in the public sector enterprises. Clear with this? Disinvestment means जो हमारे public sectors के shares हैं, bonds हैं, वो लोग दूसरे लोग खरीदेंगे so that the government can earn money from that for the financing or problem faced by what are the drawbacks for the public sector. We are going to improve that. Next, while fixing while fixing the price of shares and the bonds, it is very, very important because that price will be investment for the that will be disinvestment by the other people. So we have to fix the price by considering all the factors in that. So it is very, very important aspect in the disinvestment. And disinvestment shares are listed, quoted, traded on the stock exchange. And the last one, Indian and the foreign financial institution, Indian and the foreign financial institution, bank, mutual funds, companies, as well as individual can buy disinvested shares and the bonds. Okay? So these was the your introduction of disinvestment. I hope you are clear with this disinvestment. ड्यू टू क्यों हमने ये किया है ओनली बिकॉज इट्स अ प्रॉब्लम इन द पब्लिक सेक्टर एंटरप्राइजेस. आई होप यू आर क्लियर विद दिस कंटेंट. इफ यू हैव एनी डाउट प्लीज लेट मी नो. So stay safe, stay healthy at your home. Thank you so much, students.